office, and we got another problem over there, and we're trying to solve it, so I was tied up here.
Oh, the one about the bulkhead?
Yeah. I think we'll be all right, though. They get excited, you know. It's nice to getting too excited. You know, I always say as long as there's railroads, there'll be wrecks.
You said what?
I said as long as there's railroads, there'll be wrecks. You can have anything happen, just correct them.
That's true. Yeah, they got a little bit excited there today. I saw that washing out.
Well, there's nothing impossible.
Well, I think that's pretty well been proved by the Corps of Engineers since last March 27th.
That's right. There's nothing impossible. It can be taken care of quite easily sometimes. It looks real bad on the surface, but sometimes when you get into it, it isn't quite as bad as you thought it was.
If you just don't panic, start defining your problem and then do something about it.
That's
get
right.
it made. This is the way engineers, this is typical of an engineer's attitude, isn't it?
Well, I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. But no matter what you do, you're going to have problems. It's just to be expected. Bound to have problems. And I say some of the real tough problems, it's a challenge to correct them.
You'd never be very happy, I imagine, in just a routine job since you like these challenges.
Oh, I like to get my teeth into it and go.
How long have you been here in Valdez?
I came in here the 11th of January.
This year?
Mm-hmm.
Where'd you come from?
Fort Greeley. I was at Fort Greeley 9 years. We finished up everything there on all the construction, with the exception of a little seating around the family housing next year, and that was all that was left. Then I was in Whittier 10 years. That's a challenge in that country, I'll tell you. This is much like it, you know, here. Heavy snowfalls. It's a good deal like it.
What'd you do in Whittier?
Well, we built probably around $50 million worth of work there, buildings. The 14-story building is there, one of the highest buildings in Alaska.
Corps built that, huh?
Oh, yes.
Were you project engineer or resident
Resident engineer. That's right.
on those jobs? Well, how come you were there 10 years?
Because we had a lot of work to do, and more buildings came up, more projects came up.
Have you been set back there since the earthquake?
No. But I do know that those buildings are still standing and in quite good shape.
Mm-hmm. How long have you been in Alaska?
I've been in Alaska since 1944. 45, between 44 and 45.
Did you come up with the Corps or what?
Oh, yes, I was with the Corps, yes. I went out on the Excursion Inlet. We had 600 buildings there that we had to take down and ship to Okinawa, and we had 750 German prisoners of war there.
Where is this?
Oh, that's the southeast in Alaska. This is, 70 or 80 miles, I'd say, maybe north or southeast of Juneau. Real good men. Boy, they were excellent.
The prisoners of war?
You just bet they were. Wonderful. Fine people, worked hard. Of course, we paid him good. We paid him 10 cents an hour, too. No, but really, they did. They did a real good job.
They were working for the Corps then. Huh?
Oh, yeah, they were prisoners of war, but they all talked very good English. Real fine. They were Ramos, non-commissioned officers, you know, out of that African Corps. Real fine.
Have you ever heard from any of them since?
Oh, yes. I heard from for a long while after they got back homeland, but they didn't go, and we thought they were going right home, and we shipped them out of Excursion Inlet, but then they went over to England and done some work over there before they went home. But they're real good men. Fine.
I guess it came from all walks of life and occupations and everything.
Well, that's what we did when we took them off the ship. The first thing we did was catalog them, you know, to find out what they did in life and then place them to the best advantage for ourselves. Because we needed all types. Just because you're taking buildings down means nothing sometimes, because you gotta have plumbers, you gotta have them know how to take the fittings and save them. All those things. Truck drivers. Everything.
How long were you there on that project?
I think we went in there around May and we wound it up about Christmas. Moved 600 buildings, took it all down, took every nail out, squared all the boards, all the edges, banded it all the piping, saved every fitting, sacked it all. It's quite a job, you know.
Yeah,
And then still feed them at the same time, you know. We kept one big building for them to live in, and that was the last building we took down, and we had that in the bakery. And then we baked, I think it was 10,000 loaves of bread and put in the freezer so we could take the bakery down. And then of course, we baked a number of other things too and froze those so we'd have enough until we finished, see? Otherwise, we'd be in trouble, see? So that's the way we worked. It worked real fine. Because once you take the bakery down, you've had it then.
Then after you finished the project there,
At Excursion Limited?
yeah, where'd you go?
Nome, Alaska. I was in there 9 months, Nome, Alaska.
Doing what?
Building buildings and officers club and family quarters and fire stations. General construction. That's quite an experience in Nome, Alaska, too.
I bet it would be. I bet you run into real problems there that are very peculiar to that part
Yes,
of the
it
country.
is. Of course, that's frozen ground all the year round, you might say. But real fine people up there. Not many of them, but they're real fine people.
Did you have any special type of procedures to use to work with this permafrost?
We didn't have to bother too much with the permafrost at all.
Why?
Because we stayed right on top of it. We used fill right on top of it. The less we disturbed it, the better off we were. It would stay frozen. Of course, in some areas they can't get away with this because you have to, if you put piling in, you've got to keep it froze all around them, and then they'll stay properly. As long as you don't transfer heat down in there, this is your problem.
So you were at Nome 9 months, and then where'd you go?
And I went to Whittier.
Was Whittier already partially built when you got there? Or
No, Whittier was an old army camp with old barracks and Quonset huts, and when I got down there was 34 of those buildings that were flat as a pancake due to the heavy snowfall. It had never been used. See, Whittier gets an average of 30 feet of snowfall a year, you know, and it's wet snow. So that it made a real fine port when we get through with it. Built the docks, built the warehouses, built that city under one roof, you know, which is quite a building. You could live in there and never have to go out, and everything was in there. Your bowling alleys and your rifle ranges and your theaters and everything you can think of was in that one building.
It's a lovely building.
It is. It's a nice building. It's large, too. I think that one is 6 stories with the wings, too, on it, you know. Of course, the other one is a 14-story building. Then they build a lot of permanent buildings, the shop buildings and all that, you know. And the headquarters building, it's all permanent. But they stayed up during this quake, those big buildings. They rocked a little, but they stayed there.
What's your theory on that, Carl?
Well, I keep telling them the top is no better than the bottom. If you don't have a good bottom, you haven't got anything anyway. You can have the finest building in the world, but if you don't have any foundation underneath it, what I mean with that, stable ground, you haven't got anything anyway. It's just as simple as that.
And Whittier has stable ground.
Well, it has, before we got through, it had stable ground, because we went down, we hit stable ground.
How far did you have to go down?
I don't remember just how far we excavated, but we went down to stable ground. This is what we did, and this really paid off.
I was just wondering if it were, whether I knew in feet or not, was it deeper than most?
Well, we over-excavated, if this is what you mean, more than what it actually called for on the drawing.
And more than you would normally have to in another place?
Well, in some places you wouldn't have to go that deep, but you must go down to get what you need. If you don't, it's just like up there at Fort Greeley this past year when we built those 62 homes up there. We ignored the cutoff on the foundations where we were supposed to stop because we wasn't in good material. We had clay deposits in there. So I just went right down. We paid the contractor the extra money to get that out of there and went down and we got something that was good, and then we have no problem to speak of.
Well, what would keep those buildings, since they're high-rise, what would keep them from whipping and causing damage that way?
They were built to whip. That large building, that 700-foot building, is actually about 6 buildings. But it looks like one. And each one is sitting on its own foundation with a copper crumble joint right straight through the buildings. So it gives them a chance to move. The same way with the 14-story, that's an earthquake building too, with copper crumble joints in it. So they can move, see? And they moved. Certainly they moved. But they didn't do any damage, I don't think, at all on that long one. I think the long one, I don't think they found anything wrong. And the other one, they did find a few concrete block partition walls that had come out, but this is to be expected. But the building itself, I don't think it hurt it a bit.
Well, you're getting down here in January then. What stage of construction was this job in when you arrived?
Well, they had just shut down the dock. They had done a portion of the work on the dock, and the weather got so bad they shut it down, and we'll start that up again now within the next 2 weeks, I'm sure. And we're going to have that dock the 15th of May. We're going to have it, that's all there is to it. We got to have it. And we want that one warehouse, because one without the other is no good. You must have both. There's no use of finishing the warehouse, the dock, if we don't have the warehouse. You've got to have the warehouse, and we're going to have it.
By the 15th of May?
Before the 15th of May, the warehouse. I want that warehouse the 25th of April. That's what I'm shooting for. But you see, if you had the dock complete and you unloaded materials that must not be wet, you can't leave them out in the dock, so you've got to have dry storage for it. So one is no good without the other. And the third item that we must have, and I intend to have, if it's at all possible, is have water at the dock. This is very essential because in the case of fire, we've got to have water at the dock. And all these things got to dovetail in together.
What kind of water system does Valdez have, or are you having to rebuild this too?
We're going to build that now. We just let a contract. We've got the wells all drilled up on the new town site. And we are now going to build the pump houses and the water system and the reservoir. And this is a fast one too. We've got to have water at the dock under this contract that Whitley Plumbing and Heating has now. We've got to have water at the dock by the 3rd of May. And this isn't going to be easy because the ground is froze. But this is beside the point. We've got to have it anyway. There's always a way. We might have to steam that ground, but we're going to get it. I don't think shooting it would do any good. I don't think blasting would do a bit of good. I think all you do is pop out a hole here and there. I don't think this is the answer. We might be able to take a large D9 tractor and rip it. I think it might rip. Then we'd be all right to get the water at the dock. But we want the water at the dock so that we have everything when we start.
You'll be laying it in pipe. You'll be laying the pipe.
That's right.
How deep did you have to go for the wells? Well, first of all, how many wells did you do?
There's 2 wells drilled.
And how deep?
I can't tell you how far they drilled, but I do know that they're excellent wells because they were drilled when I got here. All we did was pump them out. We'll pump one of them out. We never touched the other one. The district had taken care of that. One was under the district to drill the well, and the other one the contractor drilled. And we pumped up to almost 980 gallons a minute, I guess, and we had no drawdown. Real good well. Fine, just excellent.
How big a reservoir will you have? Will it be an open reservoir?
No, it'll be a large tank up on the hill. It'll be quite a large one. And we got to have that. All these things got to come together. If you don't, and another thing we must have, and of course it isn't up to us to get it, but I've talked to the city fathers on this, and that is to have power there at the dock. We've got to have the power there. I don't know who's going to furnish the power, but we don't have nothing to do with that. Because if you're going to use the warehouse and it's at nighttime, you're not going to see anything. We'll have it all wired and the lights the bulbs in, but without any power, you see, this all has to come together. But I think that the city fathers are taking care of this now, so we'll have that. But you can't forget anything. See what I mean? Same way with the floodlights on the dock. If we don't have power, here we sit.
What projects have been completed here in Valdez by the Corps?
There's the little elementary school that was completed by the Corps. That's on the new town site. And there's one well in the town here that was drilled, has been completed. This is temporary for the town here to give them water. Now they have ample water they didn't have before, but now they're all right. And those are the only two items that's completed. We've got a long ways to go on this.
What projects do you have yet to complete?
Well, we've got the dock for one. Let me just let you look at this. We've got a high school to build, a fire station to build. We've got the pavement in the streets. We've got the curbs and gutters and sidewalks, the water supply and storage facility, the large hospital, new highway office, the highway garage, highway storage, materials laboratory for highways, and storage for the highways, then a heating plant facility, that'll be a state complex. And I don't know what else they've got in the pitch at the present time, but they have talked about a new city hall, which they should have. They must have it. This is going to have to go this and here. So there's many things could, when you start building a new little city, and starting from scratch, you get quite a problem. You've got a lot of things to think of and a lot of things to do.
Why is the project so slow in getting underway?
Well, I don't quite follow you.
Well, you only have these two things completed, and yet you've got all this to be done.
Well,
Why hasn't it been done?
well, you see, there's a lot of these things, it takes a long while to get designed. It takes quite a while to get designed, and you can't start design until everybody has agreed that this is what they want. No, the town site they didn't have at the end of the summer. Then it's coming into fall. So many things that's under design that it's like that large hospital, which will probably run $2.5 million. I don't look for that to get going underway in the middle of the summer. I would like to see the high school get going as soon as possible, because I'd like to have that completed by the time they go back to school. This would be fine. Whether we can make it or not, I don't know.
How much will a high school cost?
I'd say round figures between $800,000 to $1 million. I don't think that'd be too far off.
Has it been designed?
It's under design now.
What have been some of the special problems that you've met here that you've never had to meet anyplace else?
I haven't seen any. I've been through this before. This is nothing new to me. I haven't seen anything that's actually a real problem either. The only problem actually is your weather conditions that slows you down, like these heavy snows and the rains, and your road conditions get bad, your haul roads get bad, and things like this. But actually, we don't have too many problems. If we could get rid of the snow, we'd be in fine shape. I wish it was in good shape as Cadobra is. The streets there are bare. We're not, by any manner or means, being bare, you know. We've got lots of things to contend with here. But the construction is not too much of a problem. We do have a problem on this warehouse pouring this concrete this time of year, because you've got to heat your water, you've got to heat your aggregate, you've got to heat your sand, a lot of things like that. This takes lots of time. It slows us up. Or in a good summertime, you wouldn't have to do this. You just take the water and go. Then you've got to keep your concrete heated after it's placed. You've got to keep live steam in there and keep it warm for a certain number of days till it's cured out. This all wouldn't have to be done later on some of these other buildings. This all takes time. Many things come into it. But it's nothing new. It's when you want to go this route in the wintertime, you can expect this.
How much money is being spent on
I think that's right around $600,000.
Just for the dock, not including the water going to
Well, it
it.
has nothing to do with that.
Warehouse.
Warehouse, I think, is around 300,000. Right at that point. And this one we just left, the water system, that's the pump houses and the reservoir, that's around 328,000. Costs money to build new Aspen.
You kept the job on the dock and warehouse going all winter long.
Oh yeah, the warehouse has been going, and the dock the dock hasn't been going. But the small boat harbor's been going all winter long.
When did the dock close down?
Closed down in, I think they closed down in December, just before I got here.
How big a small boat harbor is it?
Well, I think it'll take about 800 boats.
This is bigger than the one they had before, huh?
Oh yes, much larger. This should make a real nice harbor. There's only one thing that bothers me on this harbor, and I don't know if anybody's thought of this or not, but I'm anxious to see what happens in the wintertime when those boats are in there. We have a terrific amount of fresh water seeping through underground. And I'm just wondering if this might not create an ice problem if we get a terrific amount of ice in there where we wouldn't if the salt water's in there alone all the time. This is just my thinking. Maybe I'm wrong. But I know, well, we've got these pumps running all the time. We're getting a lot of groundwater that's not salt water, it's fresh water coming, seepage. And this will still continue to come in.
How deep does it freeze here?
Well, I think it freezes right at 5 feet. But whether we'll have activity enough in the boat harbor in the wintertime, and if we get enough salt water coming in and going out to keep it free, this I couldn't say, but I question it a little bit. This is my own thinking.
What with the tide coming in and going out carrying ice chunks and things that would come down?
Oh, I don't.
Hmm?
There's no ice chunks out there. There wouldn't be any out there. It'd be what would be in the basin itself that it would be ice. This is what I was thinking of. This may be just...
Safe ice free, huh?
Oh, this is open water out here.
It's the most ice-free harbor.
Yeah, this is open water the year round. There's no ice in that bay. I haven't seen any. I don't think it ever freezes there, no. All I was thinking of, what would freeze in the small boat harbor itself? And this may not ever happen.
How many men have you had working on your projects throughout the winter?
Well, they've averaged around, with both contractors, around 65.
And when will the small boat harbor be completed?
Well, we want that the 15th of May. I want to be putting floats in there the 15th of May. I think we can do it.
How they do it?
They're doing pretty good now. Moving a lot of material.
How'd you tell them when you first come here?
Well, I told them I just had to have her, and I intended to get it.
How'd they say?
Well, we weren't too happy for a while, but they seem to be coming along real good. Cooperative.
You're going to be getting ready to taste the being a hard-headed slave driver here.
You've got a name. What's your name? Like a special name?
I don't have any name.
Special name.
It's out there in the hat.
So it's the mean one.
Do you have a family, Carl?
Yes, I do. They're in Anchorage.
How much of a family?
2 boys. And one boy just came back from the Marines.
What are they doing?
Well, one boy isn't doing anything. The boy that just came back from the Marines is going into electronics. He was in electronics in the Marines, so he should do pretty good.
How old are they?
Well, one was 29 and the other was 24. I don't think either one of them will follow the construction game, but this is their own business, whatever they want to
They
do.
followed you around and
Pardon?
they followed you around all of these post
No,
duties?
I wouldn't take them into a town like this. This is Medgar. And I wouldn't take them up to Greeley. This is another place. There isn't any place to live around really there, to speak of. It's really rough on some of those people. They're better off right in Anchorage.
Have you lived in Anchorage? I mean, have you maintained this as a home very long?
Oh, yes, about, let's say 12, 14 years.
Where'd you come from? Originally, before you came to Alaska.
Well, I worked out at the Seattle District Office, you know. But my home state is Massachusetts.
Massachusetts. Born and reared there.
I was born right in one of the most historic towns there is, and that's Concord, Mass. That's where this country started. That and Lexington. Right?
Right. He sounds like one of them, doesn't he? When he speaks, he means business.
Well, I don't know. I try to be fair with him, but you've got to also be firm with him, too.
You contacted me? Do you have any problems with the city fathers?
No, they're real fine. Real fine. Not a problem. I don't have any problems with them.
Have they had any problems in making up their mind? I mean, this is all
I
the
think to a
record,
certain extent they have. I think that it's pretty hard for them to they don't all want to get together. Somebody would like this, and somebody might like this. And I think it's been a little problem for them to get together what they actually wanted. It's a shock to them, too, you know. When this town dropped the way it did, they're still pretty shaky, some of these people. They're worried. It's like about a month ago when they chased us out of town, you know, all of us.
Chased you out of town.
Everybody in town had to get out of town 20 minutes to 12. You know, when they had that earthquake up there in the chain? Well, they got word of this tidal wave. So, they weren't fooling either when they came around to every house, every place. So we drove at the airport, most of us, and stayed there till around, I guess, 1:30, quarter to 2 in the morning. It didn't happen, but it could have, but it was darn nice of them to get us out so that they're watching everyone.
Happened once.
Yeah.
So you can't blame them. They are real skittish.
Who was it that got everybody out?
Well, there's a number of different
Not
people.
there.
Oh, yeah, there's a group. That's right. They get.
I mean, is it a civil defense? Is it
That's
city
right.
police, or
It's a
is
civil
it,
defense.
Do we have city police here, or is this place?
They have a city police.
Policeman.
They have police one.
One policeman. I didn't know if it was one of those that's contracted with state police for protection.
And they got everyone out. The only one they missed was the photographer. This was you. He was in the hotel, and they never even know it, and he slept right through it. But the rest of the people in the hotel get out. They missed him somewhere or other. He didn't know a thing had happened.
He woke up the next morning and wondered why everybody else was bleary-eyed from lack of sleep.
That's right. But this is nice of them. I pity the little fellows, you know, having to get out of bed, the youngsters and things like that, and trying to get some blankets on them and get them half dressed and bundle them in the car and take off. This is what they did. They don't take any chances. We've had some real good shakes here, you know, lately. Good ones. We got some one 2 weeks ago, a real good one. Really shook.
Well, they have this problem in the new site.
I couldn't say. I don't think so. It's
Is
real
it
good.
higher?
Oh, yes, it's much higher. Real good, stable ground, it looks to me, because it's buried in snow. I can't tell you
No,
exactly.
there's no problem.
Well, I know
Stability.
geologically
I think the
that
stability
it's
is
supposed to
fine.
be very
They
stable.
checked this thing
Yeah.
real carefully.
I think
I was
it's...
just wondering about if the people would fear.
No, I think they'll be... No, I don't think so. They'll be all right there. I think they'll have a real nice little city.
They'll be able to settle down, relax, stop being nervous over every threat of a...
I would like to see them hold a pretty tight control on the buildings they let the people put up, because it'll be good for them later on, and not make starting with shacks and get a shack down. And I don't think they'll allow this. This is my feeling. I don't think they will.
Do they have zoning? Have they laid out any
I couldn't tell you. I don't get into it too much, but I think they'll have a standard that they will have to follow. pretty much. And I think this is good.
This would be a good thing to ask one of the city officials.
It's too bad you didn't know Mayor Wells is over there at Cadova. He's over there checking out.
Who else is in town, Carl?
Huh?
Who else might be helpful on?
Well, we might get a hold of the city manager.
Yeah,
I can have him call him and we'll get him over if you like.
Okay.
Who is it? What's his name? How are we going to go to private homes and things like this, do you know?
No, I don't understand how. I don't know how they're going to do it. I don't know when they're
The
going
Corps
to do
won't be involved in this
Not a
building of the
bit.
private
Well, that has nothing to do with it.
portions of the city.
No, that's right. Nothing to do with that. That'll be handled, I imagine, with the city, maybe the city manager can tell you what their plan is, what their program is. I could, no way of knowing.
What was that other question I said while ago would be a good one to ask him?
There he is.
Mr. Chance, this is Mr. Hanson.
Hello, I'm glad to know you, Mr. Hanson.
Hi, Pop.
Move, get up this way because I'm using a tape recorder. Set it up there so as we bump the desk around. Have you close this?
You want me to move out or do you want to stay right here?
Well, I don't mind. Maybe you'll have some ideas. Help me ask him some questions. Have you remembered what that other question was I said I wanted to ask him? Oh, what is your full name?
Merwin B. Hanson.
Merwin?
M-E-R-W-I-N.
And your city manager?
No, city administrator.
City administrator. What's the difference?
The form of government is adopted by ordinance rather than by charter. Primary difference.
This is not a chartered city, huh?
Yes, it is.
Okay. What class city is it?
First class.
How long have you been here?
Since 1st September last year.
Where'd you come from?
California.
What about?
Dixon.
Is that CKSON or XON?
D-I-X-O-N.
And arrived here September 1st? What is your background in this line of work?
Oh, I was city administrator at Dixon there for about 4 years. And
What size town was it?
about 3,600. And then before that I took postgraduate courses in public administration. And before that I worked for the city of Vernon down in LA County as a civil engineer, registered in California.
Yes, go ahead. Would you prefer we move into some other offices?
No, this is fine. You stay right there.
Okay. What age person are you?
45.
Do you have family?
Yes, I have a wife and 4 children.
Children's ages range from what to what?
Oh, 8 to 12. 8 to 13. 8 to 12.
How did they feel about moving up here?
They were quite interested in it.
Were they?
Yeah. Quite anxious.
Huh. I should think there would be a little bit of apprehension.
No?
Real eager for the adventure.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the big problems, the main, well, they don't even have to be big ones, but some of the problems you have encountered here that are somewhat different from some of the other places where you've been?
Well, one of the biggest differences is this being a port city. Involves different things like small boat harbor, a dock, tax
guess coming in at the time you did, the city hadn't been in very good financial condition though, has it?
No, it hadn't been for quite a few years. It had been rather poor financially.
For what reason?
Well, I'm not authority on that, but from what I've learned, it seems that the city was doing real well about the mid-50s. The trucking industry was doing real well here. And then actually what hurt the trucking industry was the Alaska Railroad, with their not being under control of the ICC and being able to adjust their rates rapidly, and they were able to unfairly compete with the trucking industry, which is the main reason the trucking industry has dwindled to such a small percentage of what it was before. And I imagine, too, that it was in this mid-50s when the city became indebted for a lot of Alaska Public Works projects. And they probably looked feasible at that time, and they're probably all good as far as that goes, but they were geared for a certain economy, and the population has dwindled quite a bit since then. The economy is down, but you still have some payments on those. And I think this is one of the things that contributed to the poor financial condition.
Well,
$545,000, all on APW bond.
Alaska Public Works. What's that?
This
I'm not acquainted with this.
Alaska
program.
Public Works program, you have to go back to 1955 and realize it was territory then, and I'm not sure of all that went into the program or the reasons for it. I guess it was try to help the cities in Alaska get started a little better with hospitals. Like for the city here, didn't have a hospital, needed one pretty badly. Water system, sewer system, they didn't have these things before, and sort of give the basic necessities to the city, and then be indebted to the federal government, whereas the city probably wouldn't have been able to sell bonds at a reasonable interest rate to accomplish this.
So this hospital and the water system and the sewer system and all of this was built with this bonded indebtedness to the federal government.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's all been wiped out.
No, it hadn't.
I mean the damage.
The damage. We still owe the money.
Has there been any effort made to try to get relief from this debt?
Yes, I've applied for release or compromise of the debt, and but in April, shortly after the earthquake, they did put, I believe, all Alaska cities into a moratorium. They would not have to make payments, either interest or principal, temporarily on the bond. Just recently, within the last week or so, they have removed the moratorium for all cities except those affected directly by the earthquake: Valdez, Anchorage, Kodiak, Seward, Cordova. So I think of right now.
So you're still not having to pay on this debt right
No,
now?
we're still, being one of the disaster cities, we're still in moratorium. We do not have to make any payments.
How is the, now the Corps of Engineers is going to be building the public facilities in this new town site.
Yes.
And I presume this means all the public facilities, publicly owned facilities. But what is going to happen? How is the private sector going to be built?
This will have to be built, of course, with private capital. However, there are federal agencies involved in the lending of the money. We have the SBA and FHA and Farmers Home, various agencies which are advancing funds for this.
Is urban renewal in any way helping out by buying up the properties from the old town site? Has urban renewal been involved in any of this?
Oh yes, urban renewal is involved, and they have declared this whole area, at least the area of the city within the dike, which doesn't mean anything to you unless I can show you a map, or you're more familiar with the area. There's a dike was built all the way around, say, the city in a kind of a open horseshoe type U shape. So just about all the buildings you see here are within this diked area. There is also city or land inside the city that's outside the dike, but there's no improvements there, or practically none. But all this area inside the dike is being acquired by urban renewal through Alaska Housing. It's been declared not only, well, basically it was brought on because of the disaster.
Oh, has it been approved by the city council?
Oh yes.
And what's going to be done with it?
This area, the urban renewal plan that this may be used for a park or something of that nature, but the intent is that there be no permanent buildings here in the future.
It'll just be a recreational area, open parkland?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Are they paying fair market price for the property? Or has there been argument about this?
There has been quite a bit of unhappiness about the prices being offered. There are, on the other hand, I know there are some people who are satisfied with the prices they have received, but I'd say that the majority are not pleased with the offers that have been made for their property. They're quite low.
Are they being offered enough to pay off the mortgages that exist on their properties? Or will they still have a mortgage hanging over their head?
I can't tell you whether this is true in all cases. I don't know if they're
I
receiving that much
presume,
money.
like in every other place, there are quite a few property owners with mortgages on the property. If the offer from urban renewal then would be less than that, of course, we'd have a number of unhappy people.
There's probably less than normal here in terms of large mortgages because there's so many of the homes here are old. There aren't a lot of newly constructed homes.
How about businesses?
That I don't know, but again, the businesses are old, but if they change hands, there could be some large mortgages on them.
It seemed that it has taken a long time for Valdez to make up its mind what to do. Now I realize that a lot of this took place before you got here, but what was the cause for all of this delay?
I don't think.
How would you explain it?
I don't think it actually took very long for the city to make up its mind what to do as far as. Are you thinking in terms of moving to Mineral Creek, or just what do you mean?
Yeah, making the decision to make the move or where to move.
Well, I think that decision was made in April, so it just seemed like it was a long time since the earthquake was March 27th. Our resolutions.
As I recall, there was a lot of haggling back and forth even after they originally decided to do it.
This could be true. This could be true as there might have been a number of people wondering whether this was the right thing to do, but I'm just going by the records indicate that in April they did pass a resolution to abandon this as a town site and move to a new area.
Well, this, of course, offered a great many big problems to the people here. And I guess they feel, have they felt that these problems have to be solved before they can move, or are they going to solve them as they go along?
Mr. Gilson here. Ginny, do you want him in here?
Yes, that would be nice.
Okay. Do you want him in?
Bring your coffee. I got mine.
But No thanks, I just had one. You
This is Genie Chance. Chance. This is
Hello.
Genie?
We'll let you sit over there in Carl's chair, and I'll just put this out here in the middle. If Mr. Pence can talk up a little bit louder, I think you've got a pretty strong voice.
Well, you getting
You've been hearing me already, huh?
you getting up to date on the
Yes, I'm doing
progress report? Or something?
a progress report for KFQ Day in Anchorage and CBS
Mm-hmm.
radio. They want one of yesterday, today, and tomorrow, you know, how these communities are coming along. What has happened in the past year and what is anticipated for the future. How long have you been here, Mr. Gilson?
I was born here in 1916. I started here. Kind of an interesting comment about the situation is my father had a business in San Francisco, and he came up here to recoup after being wrecked in the 1906 earthquake. I mean, that's how come he was here, and I was born in 1916. So.
You've lived here all your life. Was your father in business here?
Yes.
What business?
Well, he had the bank and a grocery store, which we are continuing with. My brother has the bank, and I operate the grocery store.
Any other members of your family, or just you and your brother?
Just my brother and myself.
Then you went to school here.
Yes.
Did you go outside to school or anything?
Yes, I went to the University of Washington and the Naval Academy at Annapolis, and then I went to the Colorado School of Mines. Graduated as a mining engineer.
And then came back here?
Not right here, over near Anchorage. I worked in a gold mine over there.
Where?
Independence
Oh,
Mine.
yeah.
I think it's a ski resort now, but in those days before the war, it was a very good gold mine.
They say there's still an awful lot of gold there. It just doesn't pay to dig it out.
That's true.
How long were you there?
Oh, about 2.5 years.
And then what?
The war. So I was in the Navy for the next 4 years.
Where did you serve in the Navy?
In the Aleutians and North Carolina and Southwest Pacific. With CBs largely.
Then after the war?
Well, back here, there wasn't any particularly good mining opening up yet, so I went to West Virginia and went mining there. And my father's business burned here, and he called on me to come and rebuild it. And I've been here ever since.
What year was this?
1948.
What, is he still alive?
No, passed away several years ago.
So, you were an old grocer. You got a family?
I do.
How much?
A wife and 5 children.
And their ages range from...
Well, the boy is off on a basketball trip to Unalakleet now. I don't know if that's the way you pronounce it or not, Unalakleet. And the girls are all in elementary school.
Where were you when the earthquake struck?
Standing in the door of my store.
And what happened?
Well, everything shook, which is probably an understatement. I mean, it shook violently, and it shook, and it shook, and it went on for a long time, you know. And, of course, it was a constant roar of the things off the shelf falling on the floor. And there were it was 5:30 in the afternoon. There were quite a number of people in there, but I noticed most of them make their way towards the door, you know, but the quake went on for, 2 or 3 minutes, or seemed like much longer. But then, as I say, my front wall, it was obviously weaving and about to collapse. So I was watching the ceiling, wondering how long that would remain up where it should be. And then the Alaskan Hotel front collapsed out in the street. But fortunately, the quake quit about that time. And I say I was looking down the street when the China was unloading at the wharf at the time, or was about to, and I saw the dock fly through the air, which was quite a spectacle in itself. It just seemed to cartwheel through the air. And
I'd heard it just collapsed.
well, it did, but it kind of, the warehouses kind of fanned through the air was my impression of it. And probably the wave striking, and I just don't know what happened, but I do remember that vividly, seeing this. Well, as I say, I've looked from the store door at that dock for many years, and of course it's still strange to not see the dock there anymore, but it all disappeared right in an instant, practically, except for this picture of the warehouse probably flying through the air. And the China was in the background, and it was high up, noticeably high, because it was probably riding the crest of a wave at that moment. And, well, that was largely it.
Well, what'd you do then? Go home?
Well, no. My wife was standing alongside of me when the quake hit, and of course, her first instinct was to head for the children who were home, and she had come down to the store just for a minute, and our oldest girl was in bed with the mumps, so my wife took off in a dead run to get home.
How far was home?
About a block and a half. Not very far, but when she got there, of course, the kids were on the front porch, fortunately, because our floor came up, and it was well that they got out when they did. And so a good neighbor came by and picked the kids and my wife up, so I was on my way home by then, and I saw that she and the kids were on their way out of town, which seemed a safe place to be. So I went back to get my car, and of course, that when this quake was going on, and immediately after, the ground was opening in fissures, opening and closing, and the water was spewing up. There was a fountain all over the place. And my car had been parked right on top of one of these fissures, so that the fountain drowned the car out, so I couldn't get it started. And then I had another car, and a lady fell in the crevasse, and I had to pull her out, and all these things were going on, and people were looking for kids who were unaccounted for. So, I don't know, all evening, I was going in the store and bringing groceries out, places where people were gathered, like at the high school and the hospital and so forth. And then
The store never was endangered by the fire?
No, it looked like it would be later on in the evening, but it actually never was. Of course, it was pretty well immersed. It had about 5 feet of water in it. So it took a lot of punishment, let's put it that way. But I'm able to be in business still, which is fortunate. If I'd been closer to the waterfront, I probably wouldn't be in business.
Probably wouldn't be sitting here telling me about it either.
Well, no, probably not. But many times I've thought that quite often, when the boat comes in and I'm in a hurry for produce or something, I go down and see if I can hurry up the process, or maybe send my boy down who's a delivery boy or something. And I oftentimes have thought what an awful feeling that would have been if I'd have sent someone down to check on something at that particular moment. Of course, you would never know.
Now, after this initial crisis was over, everybody had lived through the first night, and you'd accounted for quite a few of them, and others were still unaccounted for, and you had to accept the fact. I mean, the town had to accept the fact that there probably was a pretty good-sized death toll.
Mm-hmm.
What was the feeling in the town then? One of total despair? Let's get out of here, or what?
No, I was quite proud proud of the way everyone carried on. You know, people rise to occasions, and I think that was true in this case. I think that, I mean, there was not any wailing or gnashing of teeth particularly. It was a thing that was accepted, and so what do we do now? And things were done, but I don't think at any time there was any particular despair. It was something that happened. And a lot
When
of...
did despair set in?
Well, I don't know. Has it set in?
There always is. After you rise to an occasion, there's a letdown.
Oh, yes. In my case, when I got the mumps about 3 days later, probably, but I don't think there's been any despair particularly. I think the people that live in this country, probably the reason they're up here, they're not likely to despair, you know.
There has never been a period of letdown or confusion of decision in the town?
Well, I don't know about that. I've been busy getting my business back in operation, and I have not been close to city affairs or city government, so perhaps there might have been periods when it looked black from their point of view, but I can't honestly say there was any particular period of despair that I know of.
Well, do you know if many of the businessmen had to call it quits, go through bankruptcy or anything like this,
You say,
and leave, either leave or go to work as a laborer or something?
are you asking me if many did?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know other situation particularly. There are certainly a lot of businesses, a number of businesses that were wrecked or washed out at this time, and
Have they reopened?
a lot of them haven't, no. Because, well, it isn't practical to spend a lot of money to reactivate a business on purely a temporary basis. And, I mean, there's uncertainty in this direction, so that it's understandable why a lot of businesses would or could not have reopened.
Do you think they will when the town is moved to the new town site? Do you think the businesses will resume? If the economy will pick up?
Well, I don't know. I have a hopeful, optimistic attitude. I mean, I think it will be a good town, and I think the economy will be solid. And I think that if local business people who were washed away or ruined in the earthquake, I think that they will be probably given the first opportunity. But if they elect to not reopen their business, I think others will come in and recognize an opportunity and set up business.
Has there been any indecision concerning, well, it seemed to be a rather long period of time after the decision was made to go to the new town site and before anybody actually decided or made the first move. I understand you were probably the first one to say, I'm going to build a store here.
Well, that's, I guess I was. But
Why did it take people so long to reach this point?
well, to my knowledge, they weren't given the opportunity. The time had not arrived to say, I want to be here, you know. I mean, we're all needing leadership, so we want someone to say, now is the time for you to pick your site in the new town site. But I mean, there was no, to my knowledge, there was no reluctance, particularly on anybody's part, to say, well, now this is where I want to be. I mean, they just hadn't had the opportunity up to that time.
When was it you made your move?
Oh, when was the meeting, Greg? That meeting, the businessman's meeting?
It was about
2 weeks
probably
ago?
2 or 3 weeks ago.
3 weeks ago.
One thing you want to be careful here and not say that it wasn't until 2 weeks ago that George made up his mind to move. He probably made up his mind before that time, but it was at that time that he decided that I want this lot. So there's a difference there. And
Oh, yeah.
there's probably many others who decided long ago that they're going to have a business in the new town site, but maybe it was just 2 weeks ago that they decided this is the lot that I want. And some of them probably still haven't decided which lot they want. So there's
All
a
right,
difference there.
That's the point I was trying to make. The opportunity wasn't given us until recently.
Why?
Why?
You say you were waiting for leadership. Who finally said it's time to start picking out lots?
Well, as far as
I'd
I
like to
know,
give you some background on that. In the first place, it wouldn't have, it would have been rather pointless for George or anyone else to have said 2-3 months ago or 6 months ago that I want a certain lot over there, because up until September we hadn't received a layout for the new town site with the lots indicated on them. And it was somewhat later than that. This we received from Alaska Housing. They had a planner prepare this. It was somewhat later than that. In fact, we never did receive a lot layout for the central business district from these planners. The lot layout was finally arrived at and drawn up by our own city planning commission. So this is why a lot of these things lag. And as it is now, there will not be utilities available there until about the 20th of July, I believe is the scheduled date. So there wouldn't be much point in starting or even putting in a building over there if you didn't have any utilities to it. So these are the utilities, of course, putting in.
Was the city waiting for Alaska Housing to lay out the central business district, or was Alaska Housing waiting for the city to do it?
Well, the city, there's quite a bit that goes into this. Alaska Housing was preparing this as an open land project, and they prepared a proposed zoning ordinance, and they prepared this map with the proposed zoning and lot layout on it, with the exception of the central business district. Wasn't laid out. And they brought this to the city council and stated, now you should have your planning commission review this, and you should go over it and change anything you don't like and make it the way you want it. It's going to be your town, and then give it back to us. If it needs changes, we'll change it. And of course, they work through urban renewal in San Francisco. This, of course, is where a lot of time got lost. The distances involved, and the fact that Alaska Housing was set up to operate, to handle a few urban renewal projects, and then out of the earthquake came many more, which they all wanted to do quickly. And
Has all of this red tape been discouraging to Valdez?
well, I don't know, maybe George could comment on that better than I could.
Do you think people, have people been willing to move ahead faster than it's been possible to move?
no, I don't think so. I mean, before you make a move, and before an individual family moves from here over there, they want to see evidence of a payroll or some employment. So I think it's indicated that the people aren't lagging. I think as soon as mental health and highway buildings and other public buildings are built, then it'll become obvious to people that there's jobs, because they see the evidence of jobs, so therefore then they will make their move and commit themselves to borrow money to build a home. But I think it's understandable, the reluctance of an individual to be a leader over there until he sees a means of livelihood, which means that I think that this year will be largely the building of the public buildings, and next year the private will follow.
You expect it to be another year then before there's much private building over there?
That's my personal opinion. I feel that that's the way it probably will be, because like Greg says, I had expected myself to build in 1965 over there, but as the months go by, it's obvious, like the matter of utilities alone. I mean, there's no point in me building a building over there with no utilities available, or no customers over there too. I mean, I have to gauge my move carefully so that I don't get ahead of my customers, nor do I want to lag behind them particularly. I want to do it about the right time. But obviously, in the grocery business, there's no point in me being over there ahead of anyone else.
Well, I imagine this is the way most businesses have to be.
That's right. They have to. It's a complex thing, you know. I mean, I can't move till the people move, and the people can't move till they can see some means of livelihood over there.
Well, what means of livelihood is there here, if everything is temporary?
Well, most of the people are working on construction projects for the new town sites, you see. I mean, that's the local payroll plus the highway payroll.
What had been the major industries, the backbone of the economy of Valdez prior to the earthquake?
Well, how far prior? I mean, immediately prior, we were pretty much a state economy town. In other words, we had the state mental health hospital. We had the state highway offices. And then, of course, we have a good tourist business in the summertime. And we have fishing in the summertime. And,
Is fishing very big here?
well, it's getting bigger every year. I can remember when there was no one from here fishing. And the last year before the earthquake, I think there was something like 20 some odd boats operating out of here.
Do you have a cannery here?
They did have one. But now I think there's plans afoot for another cannery or cold storage or something of that nature.
Have any of the people in Valdez organized one of these local development corporations under this SBA, what kind of program is it?
503?
503 program, in order to build some of the business buildings over in the new town site?
Perhaps Greg can answer that better than I can.
I'm not very close to that program, but I know they have this, I know the term very well, what do you call it, area redevelopment board or something like that. I believe Mayor Wells is on that board, or was on it until he became mayor, and then he resigned because he had too many other things to do. But I'm sure, yes, there is a active organization similar to what you're speaking, probably the same one.
Well, now, area redevelopment is actually this is actually a government
Well, this may be the wrong term. It's a local organization.
where they put up the capital and then they borrow more capital from the SBA,
right.
and they can build property for lease or rent or
Right.
sale to profit-making
There is
organization.
such an organization. I'm not very familiar with it, except that I know there is one. I've heard the mayor speak of it and mentioned some of the people who were involved in it.
This will probably help speed up the move then,
Yes, I would think so.
by making money available. Do the people here anticipate they're going to have much difficulty in borrowing money to build new homes or new businesses in the new town site?
No, I don't think so. I think most of us who are in business here or realize that there is a disaster program where funds can be made available in pretty attractive terms. And I think in my case, I intend to do something about it before the program expires in October, which, I mean, actually, that's not too long a time from now for a person to do their planning and make their financial arrangements.
Have many people in town started making their plans along this line? Do you know?
I don't know. I suspect a number have.
I know there's a very large number of the fishermen who lost their boats.
Yes,
Already, a good many of them already have their boats either here or being built or ordered or something of that nature. There's going to be quite a number, I'd say 12 or 15 brand new fishing boats here.
What does the future hold in store for Valdez?
Who knows? I mean, you can't tell. You just have to cope with it and see what happens.
would not be able to estimate how long it would be before the town is really back on its feet again and over this blow?
It'd be a very hazardous thing to guess about. I don't know when it will be. I mean, I think this construction effort will go on for another year or two after this year. And then there's going to be an adjustment between this build economy and whatever economy we will have at that time. But what it will be, you just don't know. I mean, there's a number of things that could happen, might happen, but I mean, I always am amused at these projections, like where last summer they were projecting in 1970 that we would have a population of 5,000 or 6,000 or something. Well, I mean, I don't know who is smart enough to determine these things, because there's just no certainty about it that I can see.
What is the population now?
What is it, Greg? 800?
It's probably about 800 right now.
Based on the school population, I would say that. We probably had 1,400 at the time of the earthquake, something like that. But from the school population, I'd say we're a third off or more population.
Yeah, we've got a critical housing shortage here too.
Wait a minute, say that again.
We've got a critical housing shortage here too. This is one thing that contributes to the small population right at this time. There just isn't any place to live. And it'll be eased somewhat now during the spring and summer and fall, because it's possible to set up trailers or more temporary quarters. But during the winter, when the wind is whistling and gets pretty cold, well, you have to have fairly decent quarters.
How has the economy in the town been this winter compared to previous winters? How has business been?
Business has been good, but once again, you have to qualify it. I mean, I look at my business and it's been good this winter, but then on the other hand, there's a number of my competitors who were washed away, so therefore I'm benefiting from their lack of being in business. So
How many grocery stores are there in Valdez now?
there are two. And there were two only. And I'm thinking of, well, for example, the hardware store. Mayor Wells had a hardware store, and that was wrecked and damaged. And Mrs. Stiff had a hardware store, and that was wrecked. So therefore, I put in some necessary hardware. And the drugstore was ruined, so I put in some drugs. And the clothing store is wrecked, so I bring in some clothing. I mean, to try and accommodate the people. So therefore, my business is up because I have more things to sell because no one else has those things. So therefore, I'd say business is good, but comparatively speaking, it's hard to know just how it would be otherwise.
What do you expect business to be this summer? What kind of economy do you expect here this summer?
Well, it'll be a booming construction type economy, I'm sure. I mean, you can't spend millions of dollars in new construction without a lot of commotion and activity and money being spent and so forth. So I think the economy will be booming this summer.
Well, in Cordova, they say, send us tourists. What does Valdez want?
Send us trailers, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, the tourists are fine, and it's, we're a tourist-oriented community. But, yeah, I don't know how to answer your question on that. I feel we'll have tours. I feel we'll have more tours than we had last year, definitely. Probably not as many as in 1963. Would you say this is so?
Well, I was disappointed last year. I thought we would be swamped with tourists last summer, you know, just curious people, but actually it didn't work out that way. We weren't, and apparently our earthquake publicity had rubbed off on a lot of people adversely, so they didn't feel it was safe down here, and I talked with people up at the junction at Glen Allen and asked what the feeling of tourists was about coming to Valdez, and most of them, the mama wanted to come, but daddy said no, it might be dangerous, so they didn't come. But I think that will have worn off by this coming summer, and probably we'll have the curious people that I thought we would have last summer, but didn't get.
Do you have facilities where you can take care of them?
No. No, so actually, we hate to, as a tourist town, to say don't come and see us because we can't take care of you, because once you establish that point, then it takes too many years to erase that.
What's the city is the city going to try in any way to meet this need this summer?
Well, I don't think the city as an agency will, but I see signs of private enterprise trying to arise to meet what they expect the situation to be, like additional trailer courts and additional restaurants and so forth. Some of these have developed, some were just in a talking stage, but I'm sure that there'll be quite a bit done to meet the influx.
Will they be in the old town site or the new town site, or in between?
Well, they'll have to be in the old town site because the new town site is under construction, and like I said before, there's no utilities there, so they'll have to rely on the old beat-up utilities that we have here.
Will the city planning commission work out some rather strict zoning for building requirements in the new town site?
Oh yes, this is one of the things that has been done. This is a little bit annoyed with you, somewhat bugging us a little bit about how long it's taken to do this, but you got to realize that this is not Anchorage where a small, in proportion, a relatively small portion is being rebuilt. We're talking about moving an entire city. We're talking about setting up a complete city with new zoning ordinances, building codes, electrical codes, plumbing codes, subdivision ordinances, and housing codes. And practically all of this has been done. And if you just look at the stacks of material that are involved in this, and getting people from the community on excuse me, committees to work on these things, there is an awful lot involved. The city council has right now 13 active committees, and working on various phases. They're drawing on all the talent they can find wherever they can find it in the city, and we have a lot of people working, and a lot of these things are being developed. Most of these things that I mentioned have already been adopted, like all the building codes and the zoning ordinance and so forth, and there's just an awful lot to it. And the codes we had before were outdated, and so it wasn't just a question of revising. We were just about starting from scratch on all these things. I don't know if that answered your question.
Yeah. I'm glad I finally hit the spot that would make you flare up. I kept probing, trying to make one of you mad enough to answer me that way. No, I myself probably could describe it, but I was wanting to know what I was valued as projects along the lines in the city of Anchorage.
Well, I pretty much you work on there. They're but they do have pretty up-to-date things, their ordinances and so forth, and And it's not like all the utilities were wiped out. They have to worry about where we're going to have our city hall and the high school. And boy, we've had.
Well, in the areas where we've had to actually do a lot of planning and then get public approval of it, like these slide zones, that something's going to have to be done with them. And the property owners, they're caught between the devil and the deep blue sea, and nothing's been done about these. It keeps being batted back and forth, and they have not reached a point that you all have of making a decision and then go right ahead with making your plans and so forth and so on. It's a pretty hard thing to swallow. It's a real...
And we had...
You're dealing with human beings whose whole life savings are tied up in a piece of ground that no longer exists.
Right.
And it's a real problem when you get down to this.
These decisions have to be made quite carefully, too, because you want to be completely fair about it. And you don't want to discourage someone who's been here, was in business, or had a home, and you want him to feel ill-treated and then say, well, I'll leave, I'll go to Anchorage, I'll go to Seattle. You want to be sure to treat him as fairly as possible, and there's so much gray area, it's hard to do. It's very difficult. It's like picking out, maybe businessman thinks he's got the best corner lot in town. Well, which one's going to be the best one over there? We don't know. It could be an argument over it, but it's very difficult.
Well, say that again.
What did I
But
say?
you think that most of us have a pathway down.
Well, I think that most people in Valdez, they can see a path leading ahead, and they can see us all at the new town site, but it's going to be a while before we get there, and we're on our way down the path, and there is a path, and we're fortunate that we do have a path. That's about the current situation. We know where we're going, but it'll be a while before we get there.
Good. That'll be a good one.